Hello, third grade. So for the past several weeks, we've been talking about multiplication and division, and we've talked a little bit about how they're related. And today we're going to look a little bit more closely at the ways that they are related. So let me show you this number bond right here. Okay, this number bond shows 24 divided by 4. Let's figure this out. So 24 is our total. We see that right here. Divided by 4, we see that in our 4 groups that come off of our 24. That would be the number of groups. Our unknown, or what we don't know, is the size of our groups. And that's why we have question marks inside each of our circles, because we don't know what's going to go in there. So we're trying to think. 4 groups of what equals 24? Maybe we should skip count by 4 until we get to 24 to find that out. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So I had to skip count by 4 6 times to get there. So I could change and get rid of those question marks and put in 6s, because we now know that 4 6s or 6 4s makes 24. So 24 divided by 4 equals 6. Let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at 32 divided by 4. So we have our total. Okay. This time, though, let's say that we want our size of our groups to be 4, not 4 groups like in the last one. And we want our unknown to be how many groups we're going to end up with. So we almost think of this as 4 times what will equal 32. This is the size of my groups. I know that one group is going to be 4, but I don't know how many of these I'm going to need. So we're going to skip count by 4 until we get to 32 and see how many it takes us. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. I had to skip count by 4 8 times. So now I know how many arms I need off my number bond. And we know they're each going to have a 4 coming off of them, because that's the size of our groups. So see how we can use skip counting, which we've been doing in multiplication, to help us figure out the answers to our division problems. Let's look at a problem, talk a little bit about a problem. Let's say that we have a classroom that has tables that seat a total of 20 students. Okay? So we have a table that can seat a total of 20 students. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram, which we've used before to help me represent this problem. Now, 4 kids are seated at each table. That, boys and girls, is the size of my groups. There are 4 kids seated at each table. I need to know how many tables there are in this classroom. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I take 20 and I divide it, all right, tables, because that's what we're trying to figure out. If I take 20 and I divide it by my groups of 4, what will I get? Or I could think about this as, okay, how many groups of 4 will equal 20? So I can think about this either way. That I'm taking 20 and I'm dividing them into groups of 4, or I can say, okay, how many groups of 4 will equal 20? Either way, I'm going to skip count by 4 until I get to 20, and then I'm going to stop. So there's one group of 4. So we're at 4, and then we're at 8, and then we're at 12, 16, 20. So I can look at this and I can say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables are in this classroom. So I can use skip counting to help me solve division problems or multiplication problems, because they're both so similar. Let's take a look at another problem. Let's get rid of the story behind it. Let's just say that we have 16 divided by 4. But this time, my quotient, or my answer, is not going to be the number of groups, but the size of the groups, which means that this is my total. let's draw a tape diagram to help me show this. Okay, and I've got 4 groups. So I'm going to divide my whole into 4 groups, and I'm trying to figure out what's the size of each of my groups. That's my unknown this time. So I could think of this as 16 divided by 4 equals how many? Or I could say, okay, 4 groups of how much equals 16. Well, I'm going to skip count, and I'm going to say, okay, I could do this by doing some skip counting. Oh, I can skip count by 4. That's no biggie. So 4, 8, 12, 16. Oh, they're each worth 4. 4 groups of 4 equals 16. Or I could have started equally sharing if I wasn't sure if I should skip count by 4s. I could equally share like we have done for multiplication and division. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And again, I still get my groups of 4. So boys and girls, we can use skip counting to help us solve both multiplication and division problems. And if we get onto a division problem that we just can't think of the answer to, think of it as a multiplication problem. Switch it. If you had, and then see if that helps you. If you had a multiplication problem like, let's say, let's go with 32 divided by 8. That's a really hard problem. And you think to yourself, I don't know what this is. Think of it as terms of multiplication. Say, okay, what times 8 equals 32? Because the great thing about multiplication and division is they're just opposite. I can think of it either way, and I'm going to get the right answer. So you're going to go practice the pages that are in your blue Math Learn book, and then you will have an assignment to do listed in part 2. Let us know if you have any questions.